So this entire episode is Dom's fault, but we're here to talk Gibberpish, aren't we, Dom?
Yep, back again. I fully accept all responsibility for the existence of this episode.
That is because we're going to spend the entire episode talking about Amazon Prime's TV show, The Boys. And this is a show that you introduced me to, and we started watching it when season 2 started, because you said, season 2's like halfway through or something like that, and we're going to maybe sit down and talk about it. And it started off as originally being just maybe like a small segment, but I think the second we got through season 2, we realised this needs to be its own thing, so that we can delve deep into spoilers, we can just talk about what we want, and just go for it, really.
Yeah, I think that was probably the best way to do it, because the show itself it's still quite new. There's only been 2 seasons. It came out fairly quickly before the world ended.
Yeah.
So it's probably the best idea to put a big spoiler tag on this, because we're going to get in it. We're going to talk about both seasons.
Yeah. Just before we do the spoilers, though, before we drop that spoiler curtain, let's just say, would you recommend the show?
Oh, 100%. I'd recommend it for people that are, for any kind of person. If you're looking for something new to watch, The Boys is right up your alley. It's funny, it's got some heartfelt moments there, it's got a lot of blood, a lot of action. If you're into comic books, it takes the piss out of all the comic books. If you don't like DC, it takes the piss out of DC. If you don't like Marvel, it takes the piss out of Marvel. If you've got superhero fatigue and just really want to see superheroes get their heads blown up, it's got all that for you.
Yeah, this is the one show that I recommend to people who, both because they might love or hate superheroes, because this is everything you kind of want, everything both sides kind of want out of it. And this podcast is like a superhero fetish, so it's time to meet the superheroes dominatrix.
Yeah.
So with that in mind...
This is the show that is putting the stiletto heel in the asshole of superhero.
That got weirdly specific, Dom. And with that in mind, let's get started with the episode.
Welcome to the Gibberpish podcast.
So, I've got a brief synopsis of the show. I think we'll just start there. The Boys is Amazon Studios' take on a comic book by the same name, executive produced by Eric Kripke of Supernatural fame and Seth Rogen. There's also a few other people, but those are the kind of 2 names people might recognise.
I sorry to kind of fact check you there, but I thought Eric Kripke is the director, showrunner. Isn't Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg the executive producers?
I think Kripke has an executive producer role as well. But he is the showrunner. He is also just kind of overseeing it as far as episode to episode, but I think he also gets a credit as executive producer.
Alright, cool.
Starring Carl Urban as Billy Butcher, a man hellbent on taking down the world's version of corporate superheroes, aka Supes, after an often alluded to betrayal before the show's storyline. He's joined by Jack Quaid, Huey Campbell, after Huey's girlfriend is annihilated by this world's version of the Flash, aka A-Train. And without going any further, how do you feel about the show in general, Dom, other than just giving it the broad recommendation? How do you feel?
Again, it's got one of those, the Amazon superhero shows, because I'm counting Preacher as a superhero show, because it's a comic book as well, have this really, really high production value. It looks like every episode could be a movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's shot that well. The cast is pretty good. Some of the cast, you're just thinking you're there for half the scene. Your character doesn't really do much, but I guarantee that same character, who's fairly light in one episode, is heavy as all hell in the next episode. Every character kind of gets their own little shining moment.
Yeah.
The writing is again top notch, which Eric Kripke, he basically just kept revitalizing Supernatural year after year, because after season 5 of Supernatural, it wasn't worth watching. From what I've been told, the seasons that he directly wrote after season 5 were pretty good. It was actually worth a watch. So it's got the right people behind it, and I think where the show shines the most is the characters, because there's a little bit of something for everybody there. If you want the cocky, arrogant guy that thinks no one can beat him, you've got A-Train. If you've got the over-the-top yet very silent man-child, you've got Black Noir.
Yeah.
Then you've got the insert character, which is meant to be what the fuck is his name, Huey Campbell. But Huey Campbell, as we've both discussed through text messages and through other Discord calls, Huey Campbell kind of sucks.
He is a total bitch. I also want to just bring up there is also a spin-off kind of sideshow, kind of similar to like The Walking Dead had an after, like Talking Dead.
The Talking Dead.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
show
there was
also
Talking Dead, Talking Bad. There was a whole shit ton of them, all hosted by what's his name? The guy that created the Nerdist.
can't remember his name. Chris.
No, I can't remember.
Chris something.
Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
Hardwick. Yeah.
So this version or this show's after show is hosted by Aisha Tyler, which is quite nice.
Yep.
It's not great though. I do feel like it's limited by like all the shows made pre-COVID, which means that it's normal television. But then you go from such great intimate character-driven scenes into people clearly like Skype calling each other while they're in the same room. You lose a lot of the energy that the cast generates, which is a shame because all these people seem to have a great time making the show. Talk about like the onstage or on-set atmosphere being great the whole time, and then you have the one chance you can see them as themselves fucking around and annoying each other, and it's all done through these weird Skype calls. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I've only ever seen clips here and there, but it does seem that the after show doesn't really work because you've got, like you said, there's the Skype call aspect of it, and there's always that 10-20 seconds of dead air when it's just, and what do you think about this? Then it's the blank face. Yeah, it was okay, and it's a bit weird. There's some teething problems there, but I can imagine the show will improve dramatically as podcasts and things do when the hosts are recording in separate rooms across the country.
Yeah,
when they're actually in the building together, it'll get better.
Yeah, you get into the swing of it eventually. Don't worry, kids, you'll get there. I do think that the talk show will get better afterwards, but it's if you see it, I mean, if you've got something better to do, and by better I mean anything, you can give it a miss. Like if you want to clean your room instead of watching the show, go for it, or want to have it on in the background, go for it. But it's nothing to really tune in for because, as I say, everything's filmed under COVID conditions, which means everyone's sitting in a separate room, so you miss out on all of the chemistry. But yeah, I would say that you're dead on the money. This is a great character-driven show, and despite being about superheroes, there was so little superhero action going on. It's mostly about the people, kind of either the people behind the mask or the people caught in the wake of superheroes. And I'm gonna say we're gonna say how much we love these characters, but at the same time, I want to talk absolute shit about them because I hate most of the characters in the show. Every character in the show is a bad person, but the actors portraying them do a fantastic job. This is like one of those shows where you really have to hate them, like Charles Dance in Game of Thrones. Charles Dance is a fantastic actor, and that's why you get really hyped up when he's getting the shit kicked out of him when he dies during Game of Thrones, because he's so convincing as an absolute monster that you're kind of glad that he's out of the way.
Yeah, just going back to the superhero action part, I can't remember if it was an interview with Eric Kripke that I watched or it was something to do with The Boys and someone was talking about it. I think the show realises that superheroes fighting in a realistic sense can't really be fun because one of them can, tear steel apart with their bare hands. One of them can melt steel with their eyes. Seeing them fight's going to be boring. So they realised that, yeah, Superman, if he was real, would just cut someone in half with laser vision, or Wonder Woman was real, she would just punch someone out of existence.
Yeah.
So they just make it, all the superhero powers, when they're used, are just quick, short scenes. Like with A-Train, obviously he's a speedster, but you wouldn't really see him fighting. His fights wouldn't last long because you just run through people or punch their heads off while traveling at Mach 2.
Yeah. And there's a lot of scenes where you see the consequences of a superhero, maybe not even directly interacting with, but just accidentally coming into contact during a fight with a person. There's a scene later on where someone gets into a fight with another supervillain or a super terrorist and uses laser beam eyes and annihilates not only the villain but someone else standing in the background. And you're like, oh yeah, I suppose that laser doesn't really stop if it goes all the way through that guy's chest. Physics does kind of have to keep applying and ends up applying to some guy's chest. So it does kind of... It's very good at using those rules and pointing out these little kind of hypocrisies or these little issues that you would have in stories like this. And it's interesting. I do like that there's always that aspect of... and as you say, like, they realise that the superhero fights would be boring. And if you want a superhero fight, there are these things called Marvel and DC movies. You can go and get your stuff there. You can go get your jollies and the action fights there. But then you can come back to this show to try and find out what's going on with people behind the mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although I do disagree with you slightly on the not liking all the characters thing. I think everybody, with some fairly big exception, has a slight redeeming character to them. I think there's maybe about 3 or 4 characters that I could just get rid of.
I looked at the cast because somebody was asking me what I thought of the characters, and I'm like, actually, with the exception of maybe Mother's Milk, Queen Maeve is quite forgivable. She's human in that sense. Starlight is supposed to be a very very generously accepted character. And then Black Noir is obviously the perfect human being, so he can't be really touched. But beyond that, everyone else can just suck it. I don't like any of them. I suppose we should really go through the roster of characters. I mentioned Huey Campbell's the boyfriend of a girl who gets murdered. He gets dragged into Billy Butcher's world. Billy Butcher is a former SAS CIA operative who has made it his life's mission to take down the Seven, who are a parody of the Justice League from DC comic books, where you have Homelander, where he is basically Superman.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say that he was to take down the Seven. I always, just from watching the show, he just wants to... I mean, his overall thing is just kill Supes because he doesn't like them, but he is laser focused, like pinpoint focused on killing Homelander.
Yeah,
he'll kill other Supes to get rid of them, but his main focus is the big guy, the Red Cape.
I think he would go for Homelander over anything else. Like, if there's one thing he wants off that list, Homelander's number one. But I do think I think he now has seen behind the curtain and makes a point of taking down all the members of the Seven. But you have Homelander, which is Superman when he finally wears the American flag as a cape. Queen Maeve, Wonder Woman with a drinking/recreational drugs problem, compensating for her jaded worldview. A-Train, who is the Flash, but he knows that there's always a faster athlete chasing his heels. Black Noir, which is a series stand-in for Batman, but the ninja and brutality dials are cranked all the way to 11.
Yeah.
Translucent is the Invisible Man, who uses his power the exact same way any 12-year-old boy would. The recently departed Lamplighter, who is a mysterious pyrotechnical superhero that we meet in Season 2, but is kind of a mysterious figure in Season 1. And the Deep, which is a slightly dumbed-down version of Aquaman dealing with the crippling depression of being Aquaman. And then you have...
I like that that's the aspect of the character that they focus in on. Like, the fact that his ability, his superhero powers, everyone else gets these grandiose powers. Stormfront can control lightning. Queen Maeve is the strongest woman alive. He can talk to fish and swim really fast. You would be depressed if that was your superpower.
I also want to bring up there is Starlight, who is a young juvenile. I won't say juvenile. She's like 20 or something when the show starts, but she's a small town girl brought in to replace Lamplighter after he gets removed from the Seven, and she is the small town girl who just wants to live those big city dreams, only to find out that the company she's going to work for could give a flying fuck about her. She's a commodity to be used and sold to the public. She is then forced to give a blowjob to the Deep to get into the Seven, or to really get into the Seven, in air quotes, or whatever it is that he said. And then she's told by Queen Maeve to suck it up on her first day. Like, oh, boo-hoo. You get
used to it. This is the breaks.
Yeah, that's the reason why I say, like, Queen Maeve, she was on the list of, like, she was kind of on my shit list for a bit of the show, because she was like, she basically saw a young woman be, like, dealing with a sexual assault, and she's like, oh, buck it up, kid. Like, whoa.
Yeah. That's actually the tame version of that interaction, because I've got a bit to talk about the differences between the comic and the TV show, so we can get into that a bit later. But yeah. The TV show has the tame version of that interaction.
I think the TV show has to tame down most of the interactions, because there's a few. There's the initial interaction between Starlight and the Deep, which goes from like a rape to a kind of I don't really know what the word is. Like, to just kind of convince someone to give you a blowjob. And then it's sexual assault, but it's not quite the same as what we're going to talk about in the comic books. And then there's a few other scenes that, again, like, it goes from ambiguously moral sex to, like, straight up rape in the comic books, because the comic books were written with a bit more of an edge to them. And I think Amazon realized to tame it down for television.
Yeah.
And I'd say the show focuses on like the kind of real version of these characters. We're going to talk a little bit Season 1 and then Season 2. We also get Stormfront, who is a whole thing we will deal with when we start talking about Season 2.
Oh, yeah. She is. I mean, she could be an episode by herself. There's a lot to unpack in that. Talking about that woman.
It was actually watching scenes of Stormfront and having parts of the character revealed to me as a viewer that was like, oh, this show needs to be talked about by itself. But I think that's the key part of the show is seeing the heroic faces of the heroes that the public gets presented, and then seeing the kind of behind the scenes versions of the characters. And a lot of the first season is dealing with the real versions of those characters.
Yeah, it focuses more on, because when you read Superman and you read Batman comics, it's always about this heightened version of them. But let's discuss what they would really be like. Do you think Superman would be so grounded after saving the universe for the 9th time?
I mean,
no,
yeah.
He's going to get a fucking big head. He's going to demand that everyone love him.
That Kansas education can only do you so much. Yeah. I feel like the other characters we might want to talk about is Edgar, or Mr. Edgar. He is the head of Vought, which is the
Stan
company.
Edgar.
Yeah. Vought is a weird one because it's kind of Vaught's a company that is kind of seems like a combination of a like bioengineering company and then like Disney is the only real kind of thing I could imagine being so good at PR, because they are capable, they are responsible for the superheroes management and then management and PR. But also, you'll learn later on that they are actually the ones creating the superheroes, because they have an entire bio-research division designing superheroes from the ground up. Who else do we have? I keep forgetting her name, but the manager for the Seven for season 1.
Madeline Stillwell.
Yeah, Stillwell. She's probably definitely say she's one of the key characters for season 1. Doesn't exactly stick around for season 2, but she's such a key part of season 1's plot that it's important to mention her, and the doppelganger as well.
Oh yeah, let's not talk about that guy. That scenes with that guy freaked me the fuck out.
It's interesting, gentleman. Does exactly what you think a doppelganger would, but imagine that being used by a morally lacking manager to try and gain leverage on senators in the United States Senate. So, yeah, let's go with that, shall we? So other than that, beyond that, I just have a list of season 1's plot points. So is there anything else you want to talk about before we just start jumping into the plot of season 1?
No, not really. Like I said, I've got a bit to talk about the differences between the comic and the TV show. But yeah, all you need to really know in season 1 is where the scale is set reasonably in season 1. In season 2, they ramp it way the hell up. So I'll pass it over to you to talk about what happens in season 1.
So most of season 1 is dealt with introducing Huey and Butcher together. I think it's like the first episode is a lot of that. And introducing the kind of power difference between a human and a superhero. And that also includes larger parts of the next few episodes involve Translucent, who has been stalking Huey and Butcher, trying to figure out who they are, why they are so interested in infiltrating Vought, and them actually capturing Translucent by attacking him with an electrical wire, nearly shoving it up his asshole, which might have been one of the funniest ways I've ever seen a superhero taken down in the electrical goods store. And then it devolves into Butcher showing us around a few of his mates, including Frenchie, and trying to find a way to kill someone with effectively diamond hard skin. So it's a lot of inventive scenes of them trying to kill someone who's basically indestructible. And with Translucent being invisible, it involves a lot of yelling at an empty cage, which I just find hilarious. I can't imagine it was easy to act through that. What do we have?
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only person that found that funny, because there was a point where Butcher's saying, it's Frenchie's talking to Translucent in the cage. And I'm just thinking he's shouting at an empty cage with a guy standing over him doing his lines, pretending to be in that cage.
Makes it an easy thing to film, though. We have the introduction of Starlight into the Seven, and then Huey and Starlight kind of find each other on a park bench and start talking, and end up kind of getting each other's numbers, getting to know each other and dating. Starlight deals with her Christian roots, and then explains to the world that she was actually sexually assaulted by a member of the Seven, which is then outed as the Deep. I did find the atheist episode, or the kind of Christian episode, to be quite interesting, a bit preachy at times, I get a bit kind of miffed off at preachy atheists as much as I get miffed off at preachy Christians. So it was an interesting episode, especially knowing a little bit about the Christian South, where they have these big events that are obviously as big as like normal music festivals over here, but all dedicated to the worship and glory of Christ. Who do we have? We have the one thing I found interesting is actually after that episode, the Deep apologised to Starlight in a TV broadcast, but I don't think we ever see him apologise in person. And then he is thrown out of the Seven to become the saviour of Sandusky, a small town in Ohio that no one gives a fuck about, including the Deep.
Yeah, he spends most of the end of season 1 trying to get out of there, and then that's when things with the dolphin happen.
We have the boys finding out that the superhero speedster A-Train is using a superhero version of steroids called Compound V, which he gets from a former top-tier hero that he's dating called Popclaw. A-Train uses the Compound V to demolish another superhero speedster called Shockwave, which I've misspelled as Shockwave, in a foot race. But he then shows that he's having basic heart-based complications after long-term use of the drug, which I actually kind of appreciated, because one part of A-Train's story that never really gets enough praise is that A-Train is an athlete who knows the next generation of athletes are going to kick his ass, and he knows he's starting to fall apart. And the use of Compound V, which is a clear stand-in for steroids, and the fact that it leads to heart-based complications. When you hear about all the... I have like a number of big people that I quite enjoy. People like Ronnie Coleman and then Arnold Schwarzenegger. We joke about Rich Piana a lot on the show, but I actually kind of like his honest approach to his steroid use. And each one of these guys is going to go down with a heart issue at some point. So having it be like them say, this guy's taking steroids, this guy's basically begging for a heart attack, was a good point of detail in the show that I like to kind of bring light to.
Yeah, and I'm actually one of my pieces of coursework on in university right now is talking about doping. So it's actually kind of it's tying my watching television at my leisure into my studies quite nicely. I just need to not write A-Train in the TV series The Boys gets some heart related issue from use of superhero steroids, and that is an example of real life steroid abuse.
I was going to say, I wonder if they would ever do kind of drug testing for Compound V, but then I realised that they made those kids with Compound V, so probably not going to end well, and they wouldn't want to admit to knowing how to test or what to look for when it comes to Compound V. The A-Train actually kills Popclaw by faking an overdose. They hint that Popclaw has like serious drug issues, mostly related to heroin, and A-Train actually runs around her apartment, grabs like 7 heroin needles and shoves them all into her at the same time. And I think this was probably the moment I knew that everyone in the Seven was an absolute fucking monster. Don't know what it was, but there was just something about the fact that he was going to kill his lover and look her in the eyes and say, I'm sorry, as he did it. Something about that really fucked me up about the show, but it was also the point I'm like, I'm going to watch the show to the end. The boys meet an experimental...
It definitely showed that A-Train was wanting to do whatever the hell he could to try and keep his position, and it showed him that there was that arrogance in there. Because you imagine if that was reversed and it was the Flash, someone was about to say, I'm going to expose you or whatever the hell it is, and the Flash says, no. The response in the comic books, if it was the Flash, would be, I'm going to reset time. No, it shows you a realistic example of what someone would do. It's like, no, I'm going to use my speed to, inject you with, I'm going to kill you before you even realise it.
Yeah. And the moment of realisation for her, just the look of utter betrayal on her face was amazing. Next one was the boys meeting an experimental soup called the Female in a makeshift jail cell in a drug lab that makes and distributes Compound V. The female is later referred to as Kimihito, once they actually find out what her name is.
Kimiko, isn't it?
I thought it was Kimihito. Shit.
I thought it was I've always got a Kimiko.
Yep, it is Kimiko. Actually, we just did a little bit Googling and then trying not to look at her Instagram page, but it is Kimiko, not Kamihito. So the female is then gutted by Black Noir in a fight to save Frenchie, only coming back to save his life using her regenerative powers when we realised just how powerful she is. Frenchie befriended her for a while when she was chained up in a basement that the boys were using as a base. Homelander and Queen Maeve attempt to save a plane full of people from a terrorist attack, but fail as Homelander melts the plane's controls and leaves people to die. The plan was to use this as a PR stunt to get Supes into the military, and Vought uses the crash and death of every passenger on board as a PR moment anyway. Homelander begins to...
That whole scene was fucked up from the beginning.
That scene's getting a segment on its own.
Let's just save the kids. Let's just save the kids. And it's like, no, fuck it. They'll tell everybody else. Get rid of them.
Which,
let them crash.
In an absolute fucking monster. Like, in a monstrous line of thinking, you're like, he's got a point. Like, if those kids stand up in front of America and say, Homelander saved us, but then he let my mummy die. Everyone in that room is going to go, motherfucker. That monster.
Me?
And I do like that they're going through the list of like what they can do. And like they're like, just lift the plane. You're like, we'll fly the plane down to the ground. He's like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not that strong. Like, the physics doesn't work, and we're gonna get smooshed by a plane on the runway. We're gonna fucking die. I'm not doing it for these people. Fuck these people. Let's just go. It's an interesting scene. Like, it's one of these things where the show has a very dark sense of humor, or has a dark way of looking at every issue the boys couldn't, or the Supes could encounter, and running it through in a way that you're like, shit, that's so, like, it's so wrong, but you're kind of right, and I get where you're going with it, and you have to kind of agree with the logic in a way.
Yeah, in a very, very fucked up way, you do agree with it. Just like, you bastard, why am I agreeing with multiple counts of murder?
In a way that makes you drink till 2 a.m, and you're like, yep. I know where you're going with this one. And it actually, when we talked about Queen Maeve having quite a jaded worldview, I mean, all we're seeing is the boy. Like, it's quite heavily implied that the 7 that are the original members have been around for a couple of years, maybe like a decade or more. And could you imagine a decade of trying to deal with just this weird, ultra focused view that Homelander has, where he's like, I can only do so much, and if people have to get hurt or people die or something like that, so be it. And if you were a good person who set out to make the world a better place, like I think Queen Maeve was when she started her career, I think you would end up with a really jaded, painful worldview, and it explains why she's as fucked up as she is. Homelander begins to unravel and uses superpowers and the general kind of influence he has within Vought to spy on or intimidate other members of the 7, as the boys try and find evidence of Compound V to expose Vought, including sneaking into a hospital where babies are given Compound V to create superheroes.
Yeah, I laughed far too hard at the scene where Butcher picks up the baby and just makes him laser everything in front of him.
The laser
that
baby
scene shouldn't have been funny, but it was fucking hysterical.
That laser baby is such a goddamn, like, amazingly funny, like, meme that you could just take a screenshot of that and put it up and be like, laser baby says no, and then just have him like blasting the eye beams at people. But it is so
Apparently,
great.
In the press for season 2, they were sending out dolls, like little baby dolls with blue light up eyes, and calling it Laser Baby by Vought.
The scene or the set for the boys talk show actually has a laser baby in the background, and it lights up, and when it blasts its lasers, it's like the change of a segment or something like that. And like, that is the weirdest, dumbest, funniest meme I've seen in a long while. They put so much effort into it, but the infiltration scene actually reveals a lot. It's funny because the meme of laser baby, but at the same time they point at the fact that Vought has been using a version of Compound V to give children super hero abilities, and it just gravitates into the DNA. It attacks something in there, and it influences their like cellular design to become superheroes, and it changes them from birth, and it changes the narrative of this of Supes and the 7, who, like the Christian episode that we talked about earlier, that has a heavy emphasis on Christians look at the 7 and Supes by and large and see God-given protectors, people with the people just designed by fate to be the right people at the right time, and learning that they have all been made from birth by the company that employs half of them kind of fucks with them in a big way. Actually, when the news of the like superhero creation or superhero creation myth being dismantled breaks, it goes out on live national television, leading to the silent and stoic Black Noir with a fucking amazing shot of him like crouched down in a fetal position against the wall in one of the Vought hallways, looking at his phone, seeing the news that he was not destined from birth to be great, but he was in fact made in the laboratory, crying next to a statue of himself. That might have been the most I laughed during the entire series. And again, it's one of the things I really shouldn't have laughed at that, because it's quite an obviously emotional scene, but at the same time, the silent death machine just weeping like a child, realizing his entire life is a lie, was hysterical to me.
Yeah, I did find that unintentionally funny. There's a few moments with Black Noir that were funnier than they're meant to be. Like the bit where, I think it was a couple episodes earlier, maybe episode 2, season 1, where the guy's sitting playing the piano and Black Noir just looks at him until he moves and starts playing the piano as well.
And he plays it better than him as well.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite. It's like, Black Noir, also a classically trained pianist on a level you can't comprehend.
Virtuoso when it comes to music.
I like that. Like, that's his thing. Like, in his spare time, he's like, I stab people, I gut people with a samurai sword, I throw ninja stars, and I play piano.
Yeah. After he's sharpened his knives, he puts them all away in his suit, then just cracks his knuckles and plays the piano.
I want to see Black Noir learning on a Casio keyboard. I need that for behind the scenes footage.
He opens up the little book and he's sitting counting out the different notes.
Just Black Noir, like one finger tapping, ba ba, black sheep, have you any wool?
Please let there be in season 3 a scene of Black Noir just in chopsticks.
But again, like this is the type of show we're watching, is that you have a very fucked up perspective on superheroes, and you need to kind of laugh your way through it. Because the comedy in this is very well done. It is very dark humor normally, or it is very absurd, but it definitely lands. And even when it's not supposed to, it lands. Or maybe we're just bad people. The next step of the plan is revealed that obviously is Homelander starting to flex his power within Vought. He starts to also crave more creative freedom and power within the company, because he thinks that he is the face of Vought, and that Vought itself should be remolded to promote him in a way. It already does, but he wants more. And
he wants to be the face of Vought.
Yes,
even more so than he is.
To that end, he starts having an affair with his manager Madeline, which is creepy as all hell, and leads to various scenes with breast milk, and also the building envy and rage that he has for her child, which comes up a bit later. But it turns out that Homelander's also been making a threat. He's basically been writing his own sequel, because he has been planting superhero terrorists around the world, hoping to make supervillains, which is hilarious because he wants to call them supervillains, so you can have superheroes and villains facing off. And the company that he works for is like, no, we think super terrorists has a better ring to it. Which actually makes sense. I mean, I don't know when this was written, but I can imagine that it was probably written around 2005 when people were starting to get sick of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. So this makes a lot of sense that we would term it as a super terrorist. It does fit with the time. But he has been making superpowered terrorists so that Vought can claim the world needs a superpowered military force. A large part of season 1 that has been trying to get superhero units established within the military, to the point where they actually allow Homelander to go out and deal with the superpowered terrorist that he creates by having him fly in to assist a team of Navy SEALs. After our first team of Navy SEALs that goes into a compound meets a super terrorist whose power seems to be that he can turn himself into a nuke. I don't know if that was what you read from that one.
I just got that he did this big Superman solar flare thing.
Yeah, he did
Vegeta's final flash. I genuinely expected it to be a one and done, or that he came back charred and burnt, just had to regenerate for a couple hours or something.
He walked back at that shiny.
Yeah,
just shiny and ripped.
Good to go.
So yeah, the last couple scenes are mostly related to the guys from The Boys trying to reveal to the world that Vought uses Compound V, and almost being stopped by A-Train, who actually ends up having a heart attack, and is only saved by Huey, even though he's been told if he survives, he's coming to fucking kill you. He has a beef with you.
He will kill you if you do save his life.
And he's like, yeah, I know, I gotta do it anyway. In the meantime, Billy Butcher has been hunting down Madeline and actually breaks into her home, which apparently should be damn near impossible, and tapes her to a chair with like 20 blocks of C4 tied to her, just in time to find Homelander coming in as well, which is perfect because he's been trying to kill Homelander all day, all the way through the season. And just when just when Billy Butcher thinks he has the upper hand, holding Homelander's lover and manager hostage, Homelander kills her anyway by melting her face with laser eyes.
Yeah, straight through the eye holes.
Absolutely fucking gruesome death.
Yeah, it was pretty savage.
And
but my initial thought was, right, the explosion happens because the aftermath is she gets Stillwell gets her eyes burnt out, gets her brain essentially turned into fried bacon.
Yeah.
And then Butcher just goes, "Oh well, what a shame," and blows everybody up anyway. Blows up the building.
Yeah, it was kind of like if it's as if Billy Butcher and Homelander were playing poker, and then Homelander flips the table. So then Billy Butcher goes, "Oh well then," and flips the table back at him in a weird way. Like, fuck you, no, fuck you.
I will not. It's basically someone who's a last word asshole. Like, oh, you think you're getting the final word on this? Fuck it, blow everything up.
So season 1. That is basically my plot summary of season 1. There's a lot more in there. I've left a lot out because I want people to go through and see this and experience it for themselves, and also for the sake of time, because that is taking like 20 minutes just to read that.
Yeah, just to get through what happens in season 1, because there's a lot there. Each episode is an hour.
Yes, and
45 minutes to an hour.
8 episodes.
They
per
make
thing.
most of it.
Yeah. Each episode
8 hours
is
of a show condensed into one.
8 hours of very dense, well-written character development and character interactions between like a cast of maybe 14 characters, and honestly,
like that,
no one feels out of place. Everyone feels well balanced. We talked a lot about the fact that if someone's quiet in one episode, the next episode they get their kind of time back in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say other than maybe Mother's Milk, everyone's quite well developed because he's the veteran. He's one of Billy Butcher's mates, and other than that, he has a family. That's his character, and it's a shame because he's a good character. Like his actor's great. Like he's very good at being the kind of the voice of calm. Like he's the dad. He's the grown up in the room for most situations. But I wish he kind of had a bit more time to be someone other than the dad.
The voice of reason.
Yeah, and apparently there's one like bit of trivia that pops up because obviously this being on Amazon, if you watch it on their viewer, there's a ton of trivia for this. And apparently he and the girl that plays Kimiko, they're apparently both foodies. So they would sit and talk non-stop about food constantly, to the point where everyone else is like, will you shut up? You're making me hungry. I've been filming the scene for 4 hours now.
Yeah. Some of the behind-the-scenes stuff is fucking fantastic, though. Like, they were doing... I was watching an interview with them all, and they said it was one of those, like, who's most likely to show up late to set, and it was, it's the guy that plays Homelander, Anthony Starr. And the one, it was, who's the most likely to be found sleeping on the set? And it's like, the guy that plays... Black Noir, Nathan Mitchell, he will literally do his scene and just fall asleep right where he was standing. Just find a spot and go to sleep there.
Well, we talked a lot about how interested we were in the show for season 1. I just never followed through on it until you said, no, seriously, season 2's coming, watch season 1.
Yeah, watch season 1. It was something that I never watched until, again, the world ended and we're all looking for shit to do.
Mm-hmm.
My older brother watched it, and then he bought the comics, and then that's when I knew it was a good show that I should watch.
Yeah, when someone's willing to put cash down after getting so much free entertainment, you know you're on to something.
Yeah, and it's definitely well worth the Prime subscription, even if it's late most other times. Just for the boys, it's definitely worth picking up.
Yeah. We talked about like the behind the scenes stuff. There was a lot of like season 1 was this kind of weird thing that was going to be a parody of superheroes, and it would be just taking the piss out of everything, and people got interested in that. And I remember seeing it for the first time on Philly D's show, where it was the season 1 trailer of basically Queen Maeve going backwards through an armored car when they basically try and run her over, and she just says no and takes the hit. I remember that being like the trailer for season 1, and then never really followed up on it. And then when it came to season 2, the advertising push was like showing off the cast of characters, and they say doing these like trivia videos with different YouTube channels. And one thing I found actually on Amazon Prime's YouTube page was a bunch of fake Vought commercials being made as advertisements for season 2. And that was what I found real interesting, was that you'd have Starlight introducing a face cream, or the Deep actually trying to get you to go to Deep Sea World or whatever. Because that's part of the show, and there's actually a line in season 1 when I think it's Starlight's talking to Huey, And she goes, I don't remember the last time I actually saved someone. And then you realize, yeah, you haven't seen anyone actually do any real superhero work in a long time. And it's mostly just been them being told to go to sets, do commercials, do talk shows.
Do movies.
Yeah. And I think a large...
Have you...
On you go.
Have you seen the... it's on the YouTube page. I'll link it to you later on if you haven't seen it. But there was an advert that they did, and it was the Deep advertising Japanese soy sauce.
Yes, I have. It's the one with him like thanking a squid before he rips its arms off and dips it in soy sauce.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
This show and the writers and the team behind making it must have just went to Amazon and said, you stand back, let us do it. We will make this show a viral sensation. Yo?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. It went quiet there.
Yeah, just getting a drink of water. Getting hydrated.
Ooh, la-di-da. But this show's producers and like people behind the scenes know what they're doing with the characters, and it pays off even when they're just being told, hey, can you make like a 30-second YouTube video as like seasonal promotion? Because they don't just there is occasional videos where they cut into the footage for the show. I'd say season 2 has the biggest cock tease in the trailer I've ever fucking seen. I don't think actually it might have been like an episode teaser that they put out, because the show went like the initial first 3 episodes all dropped one after the other, all dropped in the same day, and then the remaining 5 were dished out one per week on a Thursday.
Yeah. Friday.
Friday. Yeah, I think they had one of the biggest cock teasers of all time, which turned out to be a false or like a red herring. But other than that, the show's advertising and knowing that it's being critical of advertising culture using superheroes and doing the same thing at the same time has been pretty damn stellar.
Yeah, without a doubt. They also take the piss out of sort of superhero movies as well, more so in season 2 than season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just a deliberate dig at not only DC, how they will rewrite and recast on the fly if they need to, but quite a dig at the MCU, because that is the biggest feather in their cap.
Yeah,
Love the fact that they have a thriving movie universe and they're tying everybody together.
Yeah,
for the big what's the word I'm looking for? Big ensemble movie.
Yeah, and they have a very good what to say it was there was a dig. No, I think that was the season 2 dig that they took. I forgot about that. But I think it was a very good dig at the Marvel Cinematic Universe during season 2 that paid off in the long run. Not only as a joke, but as an action scene. But we'll talk about that for season 2.
Yeah.
Anything else to bring up about season 1, though?
No, just watch it. Fucking watch it. It is 8 hours of pretty good content. You will be satisfied coming through it. Like I said, if you have a favourite character, which would be kind of weird because I'd never really for the first season. Second season, there were some characters that kind of grew on me, but if your favourite character is Homelander, then I'm going to ask you to stop listening to the podcast, because you're not the kind of person that I want interacting with something that I'm putting out. You clearly got a couple of screws loose if Homelander is your favourite character.
Yeah, I think the default favourite character is Starlight. I think that's for everyone. I think after that, I go down to Queen Maeve. But all of my favourite characters are characters I'm sympathetic towards, even to the point of saying I prefer Butcher over Huey, because I have sympathy for what Butcher has gone through. And I think that's the only thing that you can really give these characters as kind of leeway, is say most of them have been through some shit. And you can maybe not understand, but you can see where the characters are coming from, which is interesting character writing. Like, how do you make a show where you're supposed to hate everyone, but at the same time know that there's a good team and a bad team?
Yeah. I think the best way to do that is, if you're trying to make the good team the bad team, try and make the bad team overly likable. Because that's what they do with the Seven. They try and make them these well-polished characters that you're meant to like, but then they're actual scumbags. But with the boys, they're funny, wisecracking, they're making jokes and stuff while they're blowing up an invisible man with C4.
Yeah.
That is inserted in his ass.
I wasn't sure if you wanted to bring that one up, but it was goddamn hilarious when you realise that...
When you think about it, it is a massive plot point in season 1 that Huey kills Translucent because Butcher shoved C4 up his ass.
Actually, it was Frenchie. Frenchie takes off the glove afterwards because they.
Oh, right, you are. It was Frenchie, yeah.
Also, we talked about the fact that a large part of season 1 is them trying to figure out how to kill one person, which is interesting to talk about, like the power scale between humans and the soups. That there's so much that would go into killing someone, and half of the issues that they come across are we can't go down this direction, which might kill him, but at the same time, if we do it, we're going to be caught immediately. So much of it is to do with the underhanded kind of criminal approach that they have to take when dealing with Homelander, because he can hear things from halfway across the planet, and he can fly there in a minute. So there's like the logistical issues of killing a superhero, knowing that another superhero is looking out for stuff like that.
Yep.
And the scene of them realizing there's a way through this. I had one question though, and I don't know if this is explained in the comics or anywhere else. Why did they not kill him with gas? I never understood why they didn't just fill the room with like chlorine gas and just kill him that way. He's stuck in a cage, he can't do anything. He can't protect himself from it, he would have to breathe eventually, I assume. Why not just fill the room with toxic gas and then leave it there? Because then you've got the windows, you can break one of the windows to let the gas out to go in and take his body out. But
yeah, I mean, it is a thing, but I highly doubt Garth Ennis was thinking about the use of chlorine gas when he wrote Translucent as a character. And I certainly guarantee that Eric Kripke, when he was writing the series, definitely thought, you know what, it'll be funny if we just stick C4 in him and then blow him up that way.
It is a much better solution to shove a stick of dynamite up his ass.
As opposed to going to find chlorine gas and making it that way, because that would have been complicated.
I'm not saying I'm a supervillain, but I'm just saying I thought of that first. Suck it, Butcher.
Then again, you get the sense that Butcher's a smart guy. Butcher knows what he's doing when it comes to this shit. He probably did think of chlorine gas, but then opted for C4 because that's just a bit more fun.
Yeah, I like the idea of there being like a fun, like we're weighing up the ratio of how, like the equation of how we're going to do this. How do we factor fun into it? And it does actually seem like something would happen in this universe. But I did also notice that Frenchie decides to get really, really high to try and figure out what the solution is. Like he can't think of a solution.
He can't think sober.
Yeah, he's trying to think of a solution. It's like, I'm too sober for this. Let me take acid and MDMA.
Yeah.
Let me just take a couple hits and just watch some like weird cartoons, and I'll go, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Shove dynamite up someone's ass. It's a unique thing, but it is, as you say, it's a very good point that Huey is the most pathetic person you could possibly think of. It takes him, obviously, he loses his girlfriend. It takes him ages to get over that, but there's large parts of the start of it, the introduction to him and his dad, played by Simon Pegg, that are spent explaining, I'm sorry, son, you're not cut out for this. We're kind of sad, mediocre people. And it's horrifically sad when you stop and think about what was just said between a father and a son. There's at no point your dad should sit you down and say, son, we are too pathetic to do what you want to do in life. And then just kind of have to try and accept that as part of your character development.
See, the funny thing is, in the comics, Huey Campbell was actually Scottish.
Right.
So if that conversation happened in the comics, you'd be like, listen, son, we were born shitebags. We're always going to be shitebags. We're going to die shitebags. If we're lucky, we're going to have a couple of shitebag kids.
Best you can do, settle down, focus on your work, forget the dead girl, and take that assistant supervisor job. Like, oh,
take the money
Dad.
from what and stop being a shitebag.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, is that Huey does have that little bit of a spine in him. He does tear up the check from Vought for $45,000, I think it was, to cover up the death, to sign the NDA, which is all fairly boilerplate stuff, which just raises the question, how often does this happen, that you have a boilerplate contract for murdered victims?
That was actually one point that I'm quite glad you raised, because how quickly the contract gets to Huey after it happens gives you the sense that this happens on a monthly, maybe weekly basis, that, you know, Homelander is using his heat vision, all of a sudden, oh shit, there goes a school bus of kids, or Queen Maeve is stretching and then just knocks out someone, knocks their head out off their body.
Yeah. And it's one of those things of like, it makes you realise that deep down, Vought hires, or Vought is willing to accept civilian casualties in the...
Yeah, they have a very high level of collateral damage.
Mm. And again, like, throwing 45 grand at someone for a death, like, throwing 45 grand at I don't know if they're married, is it? I think it's girlfriend. I don't know if
Something
his
like that. Yeah, I
fiance or
think
something
they're
like that.
talking about moving in at the very start of it before she gets splatted.
But essentially, he's just a witness. So it's not quite hush money. It might be. It's a kind of a grey area. But at the same time, like, I'll pay you 45 grand of hush money to not talk about your girlfriend's murder. That is, like, very dark and very fucked up. But it's all in the pursuit of preserving A-Train as a hero.
So it's all about, keeping, or Vault are all about keeping the Seven being the shining example of, this is how people should behave. If you have this gift, you need to use it for the good of humanity. So you can imagine that by A, being high on an experimental compound, and B, speed forcing through someone and busting them into yellow and busting them into red ribbons, probably not the image that Vault want to go for.
I never thought of the aspect that someone would probably flag up that A-Train was high as shit. And yeah, he's acting weird, but I mean, also he just did run through a person, so it might come into play that someone would maybe try and do a drug test and finds a weird compound floating in the middle of his veins. I mean, I don't know if you could do drug tests on superhumans, but I reckon that would actually end up being an issue. Someone would turn around and say, hey, you had this weird thing in your system, what is this? And then during an investigation or a court case, that would open up a lot of pretty serious issues.
Yeah, although the weird thing about it is whenever they try and take... All the superheroes seem to have this invulnerable thing about them. They all have, stronger than average skin, because you see it with Stormfront in Season 2, and you see it with Annie, Starlight, in Season 1, where she gets shot with the 50 cal bullet. That would decimate a normal human being, like break the rib cage apart from the inside out.
Oh, there'd be a hole in you. There would be a hole through your body, and the entrance hole would be about the size of a Red Bull can. The exit wound would be the width of a Red Bull can's length. I think there is this thing where they just say that he can shrug off damage. I mean, at one point, I think it might be Season 1, but it's like the guy that's shooting up at the cops in the tower. It's one of the few superhero scenes where you see Homelander go after the guy who's like shooting at multiple police cars with an AK-47. And he goes in and just snaps the guy's neck. I think it might be after just before or after the plane incident, where he jumps up and then they grab the lone shooter and they snap his neck, but Homelander takes a lot of joy in it. And it's like, I'm going to enjoy killing you, you piece of fucking shit, and then just snaps his neck in half. And
I think that's when Homelander and Maeve are in the skyscraper, and that's when Homelander starts shooting her.
Yeah, Homelander's like, no. This is too clean. We got to make it look like you put up a fight, and then he just grabs the AK-47 and then loads into her chest, and you're like, Jesus Christ, you can shrug off 5.56.
Yeah,
it was one of those weird like surreal scenes where like I think the show knows that it's a show, but then it does turn out that superheroes basically just ignore bullets up until a certain point. But I think
you kind of just get the sense that the normal shit doesn't work with them, so you need to think outside the box.
And that was like. I'm pretty sure at one point when Butcher's grabbing the 50 cal and is like sent up, he's like, this might not work. I don't know, I've never really shot a 50 cal at a soup yet. But I
get the sense that he took a bit of glee in trying though.
He
wanted to figure that shit out.
It's the childish experimentation that Butcher has, that Frenchie has as well, that makes them interesting to watch. When you're being given a weird problem to solve and they're like, I don't know, shove dynamite up their ass.
Try a 50 cal, it might work.
Nothing to lose but like my entire head. I mean, the last plot point I had was that Homelander kills his own lover / manager. Butcher blows him up, and then that's the end of Season 1.
Yeah, it ends with basically the boys going on the run because they're pretty much declared public enemy number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Or America's enemy number 1.
Yeah, this actually in a very interesting reflection, like it shows up more in Season 2, but the view of the boys is very American. It is centered almost, the only time it deals with foreign countries is literally American foreign policy and interventions. Like Homelander wanting to be part of the military strike teams that go after super terrorists. That's all they really talk about. So I think we just roll straight into Season 2.
Yeah, straight in it.
So, I mean, this starts, as we say, like, Homelander and Butcher survive the blast at the end of Season 1. With Homelander...
The bombshell that Becca, Butcher's wife, is still alive, and he has a little mini Superman as a child.
But Homelander flies the kid, actually, because Madeline had a child. He actually flies that kid, 3 kilometers away? And then at the same time, also flies Butcher out of the building before the blast kills them both to a secret vault compound where Butcher's wife Becca has been living in isolation.
Yeah.
Raising Homelander's son. Homelander then takes Butcher to the middle of nowhere where he wakes up, now realizing his wife is alive and that, there's still hope. It was an interesting way to pick up after season 2. It was weird to be like, oh, this show actually will give you a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
Not much, but,
And it will take it away almost as quickly.
We then have the telekinetic super terrorist that's seen on CCTV footage throwing a fucking fishing boat at someone. This is
pretty cool.
This is later revealed to be the female's brother, but Butcher sets up a trade with the CIA to hand over Kenji in exchange for help finding Becca. And this was something I actually forgotten, was actually looking through notes for season 2 to try and write this episode, and I was looking through the plot points. I was like, oh yeah, it was it was going to be a trade-off. I couldn't remember why Butcher did certain things in this season, but then when you read it, you're like, yep, that makes sense. Homelander tries to be a more present father to his son called Ryan, and it goes about as well as you'd expect, when a large part of Homelander's character is that he was raised without a mother or father. He was raised by a room full of doctors trying to get the best superhero they could out of him, and it's basically responsible for why he's such a cold, uncaring person.
Yeah, the scenes with Homelander and Ryan are some of the funny shit. Like the part where he's on, the whole point of his interaction with Ryan is that he wants to have his own little mini-me because he's a narcissist. And the part where he tries to teach him how to fly, just taps him lightly in the back. A Family Guy face plants onto the ground.
The fucking roof scene. Oh my god.
There's not even a kind of, oh shit, I've just pushed my son. There's a kind of exasperation. Just,
oh, come on, kid,
why
get
aren't you
up.
flying yet? I broke Mach 2 by the time I was 10 years old.
And the line of him saying, the Becca comes out and is the mother, and is like, oh my god, you've just killed our son, you threw him off the fucking roof. And he's like, he's my son, he's probably going to be better because of it. Is that very kind of I don't give a shit, I'm the tough dad. And there's a large part of Homelander is the American dream made manifest. He loves baseball to the point of absurdity. He loves apple pie and steak dinners and stuff like that. He is the American heartland, saving the modern day from itself almost. And a lot of it, his parenting style, is very 1950s, where that kind of identity of American homeland was solidified during the Cold War. And I think a lot of it shows up in really subtle ways. Like him saying, come on, he's my son, he's going to play baseball. The kid doesn't give a shit about baseball. The kid wants to learn. The kid loves to learn how to do computer stuff and mechanics, and he likes interacting with things that he likes to learn. He's not.
He likes Lego and shit like that.
He's not a meathead.
Stop motion.
Yeah. Yeah, he makes Ryan makes a stop motion version of his mum's favorite movies because it's something he wants to do to creatively express himself. Because he's a kid, he wants to creatively express himself. Whereas Homelander is a 50s guy, and he just doesn't understand that idea that a kid would want to express themselves outside of something that's sports. And the fact that he's making movies for his mum, he's recreating his mum's favorite movies, really pisses off Homelander in a way. You can tell, he's looking at it going, you're turning my kid into a sissy. He's a fucking superhero. Stop making him a little pussy, There's that aspect of it, that Homelander is this overly masculine force and when he looks at his child being raised to be a bit more feminine, he absolutely, that's when you can see the rage just build a little bit.
Yeah, when Homelander realizes that his kid, specifically his kid, is going to grow up to be, well educated and not a good old red, white, and blue American.
Yeah,
you can literally see that twitch in the eye. Because if I could describe Homelander, it's that little twitch of annoyance in the eye just turned into a person.
He's that moment of rage where it's like, you're teaching my son to read. I don't want a gay son.
How dare you?
How dare
Why do
you
read when you can punch through galaxies?
But meanwhile, our favorite character, the Deep, our favorite rapist, the Deep. It's weird, that's the tone of the show. You can say he's my favorite rapist because he's the victim of everything comedic. Actually, you mentioned it in passing, but we didn't talk about the fact that at the end of season 1, when he goes to Sandusky and works to promote the water park there, as well as making a local TV advertisement to advertise the dolphin show, he actually wants to save one of the dolphins and tries to steal a dolphin out of the I guess SeaWorld enclosure. And the interaction of him driving away in the van as the dolphins try to proposition him for a hand job might be the most absurd joke I've ever seen, until he slams on the brakes and the dolphin flies out the front windscreen and gets murdered by a truck. I fucking lost it. I paused the video and just laughed my ass off for a solid 5 minutes at just the despair in his face. Not only because he gave in to giving the dolphin a hand job, but because a second later that dolphin was dead. There was something about the just look of disbelief on the Deep's face. And when they come back to report on it, because it cuts to like the next morning, and the TV, the news crews have got they've got the story, and they show the Deep sitting next to the dead dolphin body, like the paste that has become the dolphin. It's him sitting cross-legged, just weeping for the dead dolphin as a news camera walks around him.
Yeah.
He stayed with that dead fucking dolphin for 20 minutes while the camera crew got there.
You love that dolphin, man.
It's so...
You're just going to save him.
We talk about the Deep being pathetic. You cannot understand. They play, like, the actor actually was in an old, one of those really bad fantasy movies called The Covenant, where 5 boys have, like, supernatural powers. It was around the time people were trying to make, like, rip-off Twilight movies. He was one of the actors in that.
Chronicle?
No, Covenant. It's a really, like, it was a straight-to-DVD movie that no one ever saw, but it is fucking... I loved it. I thought it was really, like, good bad, that weird way, where it's just bad enough to be good. But he was in that, and, like, they've just went to him and said, can you be done for 2 seasons at least? And he just went, okay, guess I'm done. Because all of his plans fail. Everything he does is very short-sighted, and his reaction to everything is just puppy dog idiocy. And so yeah, he's now in Sandusky trying to repair his image, just hiding in the shadows, waiting to try and come back after being kind of Me Too'd. And he joins a Christian church called The Collective, who are going to try and revitalize his image after being Me Too'd, to the point where he holds auditions to find a potential wife, which I thought was really creepy, but it kind of works. And if you're aware of like what's going on with like Scientology, it does seem to be that type of thing, you know, where it seems like, you know, they're setting up arranged marriages with for high profile members to make them look like good upstanding citizens.
It is also quite... In fact, I was going to say quite weird. It's also weird as fuck.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing.
It's the fact it takes you a minute to get into realize what is happening when they're doing the interviews, or when they're having these phone or these videotaped sessions with the wives, and they're talking to the camera about being a loyal, proud housewife, willing to raise an entire family of young mutants or young heroes, while you make the money, and like, I'm a classic traditional housewife. And then it gets to the third one and she's like, I'm a freak in the bed. He's like, that one.
Gimme.
Give me the pervert. Give me the pervert.
Give me the freak show.
Meanwhile, the Deep is replaced by Stormfront, an electric-powered Soup who uses social media platforms to spread her message that soups are the only way to save America from foreign invaders, to the point where one of her episodes, or one of her lines of dialogue, is to make America safe again. And if you think you know where this is going, you're correct.
It's exactly what you think.
We'll get back to that one later on, because we need to talk about Kenji, because the boys do eventually capture Kenji, kind of, and realise that it's Kimiko's brother. Yeah. And they are attempting to hand him over to the CIA. They're not entirely sure what's going to happen when he gets to the CIA, but that's none of their problem. The Seven actually...
need him.
Yeah. The Seven actually start to hunt the boys down and meet them in the sewers, but not before killing a fucking whale. In one of the greatest scenes of television of all time.
Yeah, that shit with the whale was, again, it shouldn't be funny, but it was funny as fuck.
I think it was supposed to be funny. I think they knew what they were doing with that scene.
You think? Yeah, maybe.
Again, if you made it this far into the podcast without seeing that scene, actually just stop listening to the podcast and watch it again. It's fucking funny. Kenji actually escapes both groups while they're battling in the sewers, but Kenji is hunted down by Stormfront, who blows up half a building trying to capture him. And she decides to kill while Kimiko watches. And this brings Stormfront into confrontation with Homelander, who said, no, the super terrorist is mine, because he's trying to make a name for himself as the only one who can take down the super terrorists as part of his continuing PR war. Stormfront is actually revealed to be the rebranding of a hero called Liberty, a deeply racist first-generation hero from the 50s or 60s who helped keep America safe and murdered black people on quiet country roads because she could. And again, it does not stop there.
Yeah, very fucked up scene.
Yeah, very. Again, like before I talk about the show's ability to talk about like current generations of like slightly racist dogma, being like they make America great again or keep America safe again. They have. I felt like that was almost a perfect representation of stuff like Jim Crow laws in the South, where it's like a black guy will say something happened, but it takes one white woman to just ruin his life and ultimately kill him. And I think that was a very obvious nod to America's deeply troubled past and current issues at the same time. Because it was very well done. But again, because the show is what it is, very fucked up.
The stuff with Stormfront, just as a whole, she presents herself as, a bit of a schemer and a bit of a, I will do anything to get my agenda fulfilled.
Yeah.
Then you dig slightly deeper than that, and it is incredibly fucked up. And again, it's another example of where the comic books are way more fucked up than that.
I think there's more to go into with the history of Stormfront.
Yeah,
so
I'm just
leave
saying
that back on the
Stormfront.
background.
Yeah, I was just saying that Stormfront in the comics is fucked up, but she's equally fucked up in a kind of a different way in the TV show.
Yeah, I think the TV show was a modern rewrite of a character that maybe hadn't. It wasn't maybe like it was written one way, but now that things have gone the way they are with current politics and racial tensions in America, they were like, we could maybe give this a quick rewrite and add in some stuff. So I haven't read the comic books, but I'm guessing that's where they went with it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest change for Stormfront is that in Stormfront in the comics was a man.
Okay.
And Stormfront...
That would make the sex scenes a bit more interesting with Homelander, I'll give it that.
Yeah, obviously there was no sexual subplot with Homelander because Stormfront is genetically Homelander's father. So...
Interesting.
When I was watching the show, I was like, don't Game of Thrones this motherfucker. It can't be. I don't want it. I don't want this. Then, it just turns out she's just the 100-year-old racist. They kept that bit intact. They kept the Nazi part intact, but just they got rid of the Oedipal subplot.
Spoilers for later on in the podcast. We can't talk. We've got a spoiler shield for the show. We need to have spoilers on our own podcast. But there's also revealed that Stormfront is actually waging her own PR war because while the Seven are classic, they're also like a version of superheroes and a version of celebrities now. These are the slightly older generation of celebrities, i.e. pre-social media celebrities. Stormfront actually embraces social media power and at one point is teaching Homelander the power of memes in converting bad incidents into good PR. Especially after a scene where Homelander flies to an African country to deal with a superpowered terrorist there and accidentally lasers through the villain to hit an innocent bystander. And
I think it's a little boy or something in half.
I think it's a young guy. I think it's a full-grown man though. But yeah, he lasers a kid in the chest, and that young guy dies. And this is filmed and then put up on the internet. To which Homelander responds, "What? These people can't feed themselves, but they have fucking iPhones." Okay. Cheers, mate. That was interesting. But
cheers, dude. Appreciate that.
But that is like, and then it's up to Stormfront to say, look, this is bad. The mainstream media has to hate you for it because otherwise they lose their audience. But there's another type of media. It's social media where you can just meme the shit out of this. Watch this.
Yeah.
And she actually makes a very American Pride, America First nationalist post online and starts spreading it around with a group of people. Like, she has a PR team, but she just emails them a meme and says, can you make 20 versions of this and then put it up on image boards? And I'm like, that's interesting. That is a very good dig at modern politics, because you can influence that type of decision making or that kind of the cultural opinion of an instant with stuff like that. And it was very interesting to see it played out on a TV show.
Yeah, and I like that just at any point, Stormfront just has her team of meme creators just ready to dole out memes.
Actually, I shouldn't have called them a PR team. I should have called them the meme team.
Yeah, they are the meme team.
Meme Team 6. That is the type of humor.
I would have also accepted. Simp Team 5.
Simp Team 5. I suppose they are simping, and she's never going to touch it. So yeah, I suppose so. Meanwhile, the boys lose track of Butcher, who goes to his Aunt Judy's house, where Black Noir hunts him down. They get into a fight and blow up half of Aunt Judy's house. Aunt Judy, by the way, stellar lassie, absolutely top quality aunt.
Just making a shit ton of money peddling meth, but top bloke.
The fight only ends when Butcher threatens to release Ryan, Homelander's son, information to the media, which has been a recurring theme throughout this season and as mentioned in season 1, that the biggest weaknesses of the superheroes is their personal reputations. Yeah. And that is why the difference between Homelander and Stormfront, like the modernizing of heroes' PR in Stormfront is so interesting, because there is hinted that if these guys fuck up bad enough, they can lose everything. And it doesn't matter if you're a superhero, if you're fucking homeless, Yeah.
There's always the underlying thought that if they can't be profitable, they're nothing. So you could be a superhero, you could do this, but if you can't make vault money, you're out on your ass. You could be a superpowered teacher.
Yeah. To the point where we actually
which would be fucking hysterical to see. Like Homelander trying to teach PE or something, just shot putting a ball into the stratosphere.
Dodgeball with a man who can punch the sun. All of a sudden,
to Timmy. Well, Mr. Homelander's a new PE teacher, and well, he's dead now.
I mean, he yelled dodge, but the ball moved at the speed of sound, so Timmy doesn't have a chest anymore.
Timmy's just a paste. Yeah, we don't know what happened to him.
We also have Butcher manages to find and infiltrate the Vought compound that keeps Becca in place. So they bang on a bridge that no one can see because there's cameras everywhere. But it does show that, actually, I did like that it's a little bit of character development for Becca, that she has started to resent Vought. Turns out she went to Vought after being raped by Homelander and said, "I am carrying Homelander's son, I need help." The official line was that Becca disappeared, and that's most of season 1 is Becca's gone, she's disappeared, but she's probably dead. He's then told the lie that Becca was carrying Homelander's son and died during childbirth because you can't give birth to a superhero child. And then it turns out she's been alive and raising the son as part of a Vought experiment to prove that you can have a superhero, give them a normal mother, and it balances out the psychological issues that we see present in Homelander. And that's been a recurring thing, that Becca was basically tricked into living in a weird compound with fake neighbours who are all scientists who are observing the development of the child, and fake school and stuff to send them to, and homeschooling a bit as well. But she's basically been forced into this weird situation.
Yeah, this weird Truman Show scenario where she's just, watched constantly and everything's set up and staged. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
But then again, Vought are the kind of company that would go to extreme lengths to protect their brand.
Yeah, and Ryan is an asset as well. I mean, if you can balance out, if you can take Homelander's power and then take away all the psychological issues, you're onto a winning formula.
Yeah, and it's also a point. It's also a point that they make in season 1 that all superheroes are meant to be sterile, so that they can control making new superheroes. It's not random. If they want a speedster, they can make a speedster. If they want another Homelander, they can make that.
Yeah,
and to find out that Homelander can then make his own kids, that kind of fucks with their business plan. And the fact that most superheroes are promiscuous bastards anyway, it probably would make Vought shit themselves.
Yeah.
So
and it does.
We've got that to try and consider.
It does raise that question of, like, was what the superheroes told true? Do they all just wear condoms anyway to be on the safe side? I mean, how do you explain that you're a superhero with an STI?
Did they all just wear these lead condoms anyway? Just like, no, I have to wear this.
Oh, imagine the speed of Homelander's nut. Just
ripping through
condoms.
Do you remember hearing the myth that a dolphin nut's so powerful that it could rip a woman in half?
No.
It could liquefy their inside. It was Oddly enough, I was watching Whose Line's It Anyway with Aisha Tyler, so bringing it back into the boys.
Yeah.
She said that someone was miming having sex with a dolphin. Then she said, "Oh, apparently you can't do that because it would liquefy your insides." Apparently, the power that comes out of a dolphin during ejaculation. So imagine Homelander just splitting someone in half, literally.
Now that just raises a question, because during the early days of people trying out LSD, a bunch of scientists wanted to find out if people could communicate with dolphins. So they had a woman live with a dolphin, and apparently she jacked him off. Which means, like, they flooded a house, or they made like a house for them to live in that was like up to the
She
waist
lost
in
an
water.
eye.
Well, either lost an eye or knocked a painting off the wall.
She shows up to the next meeting with a black eye, going, "What happened? Oh, I dropped my phone on my eye. We don't have those yet. Shit."
Oh shit, it's the 70s.
Those brick mobile phones. It fell on my eye.
If you dropped a brick phone on your eye, the way that people drop the phones on their face now, you wouldn't have a fucking face. But like, it was a point of getting off the subject of dolphin cum. I found it interesting that Becca is starting to try and pick away at Vought from the inside. Like, she's trying to get out of that compound. I found that to be interesting. That you originally think that Becca has betrayed Butcher, but I think she does realize she's made a mistake and is trying to get back to living a normal life to protect her son, because she realizes that Vought are going to just pull the ripcord and she will die at the hands of a Vought agent at some point.
Yeah. Can you get the sense that she realizes that she's on borrowed time, so she thinks, I need to get out of this as soon as possible.
But the fact that she's memorized camera locations and knows where everything points to, I'm like, that's like, she's good. Because obviously there's a whole thing of like, you never really hear about Butcher's past. You hear like little bits and pieces. Like, I didn't know he was in the SAS till like halfway through season 2. And it's a throwaway line from his dad that mentions it.
Yeah.
And there's like all these things. He's taught her little bits and pieces about how to avoid stuff. Like, he has ties to Secret Service agencies, or he's tied to like intelligence agencies. And I'm like, interesting. So he's clearly he's taught her something, or she's taught herself. Either one.
I mean, she was in the CIA, so.
Was she?
Yeah, that's how she knows Butcher. CIA or FBI, but yeah.
I must have missed that. But yeah, like, she has her own. Like, I like that they gave her own little bit of like, she's gonna start standing up for herself, and the panic caused by having Homelander's son has worn off. So we then have Starlight, who's been running kind of intelligence gathering behind the scenes, including interacting with a guy called Gecko in one of the weirdest kink scenes I've ever seen on television.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
That was fucking funny. But Starlight tells the boys about Sage Grove Mental Hospital, where Vought have been testing Compound V on people, both from birth and at later stages in life. One of Vaught's goals in making Compound V into a viable product for people in later life. It's stable when given to babies, which is how they make soups in the first place. But Sage Grove is actually being used to test how late on in life you can give someone the Compound V, and then try and figure out what the problems are and how to kind of work out any kinks. The project's overseen by Vaught's medical teams, Lamplighter and Stormfront. So we found out where Lamplighter has been hiding all this time, and Stormfront has some connection to the project.
I do like the fact that Lamplighter was played by Iceman from the X-Men movies, and that gave birth to the meme: you either live long enough to see yourself return as Iceman, or you come back as Pyro.
But the Sage Grove, I think it's spread over 2 episodes, but I found it really interesting. But they basically the guys from the boys try and infiltrate Sage Grove, but it all kicks off when Frenchie recognizes one of the orderlies in the hospital as Lamplighter. Now they have history with Lamplighter because Lamplighter set fire to Mallory, which is their one of their handlers for the CIA. Lamplighter set fire to Mallory's kids, and Frenchie got the blame for it because Frenchie lost track of Lamplighter on the way to do the deed.
Yeah, you find out later in I think the second part of the Sage Grove episode that Frenchie had to go and deal with someone who was ODing.
Yeah,
so,
they do explain why he left, but at the same time, like, it's always pinned on Frenchie. It's always Frenchie's mistake, and it's something that he gets shit for. From a couple of characters.
Yeah, Mother's Milk mainly.
Yeah, and
I think I always took it that he was pissed off about it the most because he had his own family.
Yeah.
Like, what if that happened to me? make sure this shit doesn't happen again, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't think it was so much about Mallory's kids. Again, it's more to do with Mother's Milk being like, we couldn't trust you with our boss's kids. How can I trust you in general?
Yeah.
So it's been a bit of a wedge. They talk a bit more about it in season 2. It gets mentioned once or twice in season 1. But I think like when you actually hear what went on, you're like, oh shit, that was it's a bit dark, it's a bit nuanced, and I like it.
Yeah.
But the Frenchie recognizing Lamplighter, and then Lamplighter recognizing Frenchie, starts a bit of a fight, which ends up with a jailbreak at Sage Grove, where basically superpowered prisoners break out of jail cells, and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. And there was another fucking great scene with the telekinetic soup that gets broken out. The amount of memes that I've seen online, it's just, you remember 11 from Stranger Things? Well,
Yes.
here she is now. You feel old yet?
Yeah.
And I think she's going to come back into the series in a fucking big way, and it's going to scare the shit out of people, because she could, fuck people up from halfway across the room.
From what I've seen on social media posts, because the second you start Googling the show, it becomes part of your Google Trends, because Amazon's pushing it as hard as they can. Because this show, by the way, is competing with Netflix's Big Dogs, so they're keen to promote it. But they have the speculation around her character and what becomes of her plotline is running rampant right now. Because again, she's one of the most powerful beings in this world. But she decides to open up all the jail cells, or all the prison cells, and let loose a horde of like 50 or 60 mentally unstable superheroes or superpowered individuals onto the doctors who've been keeping them and torturing them for the last couple of years. It goes very, very well for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Including Mother's Milk being strangled by the dick of a man called Love Sausage.
Yeah. And again, in the comics, he's a giant Russian man. But I mean, at least they still kept him in, because he still has the big beard and the big kind of mad Rasputin here.
There is a rumor of him coming back for season 3, but I don't know if that was
Didn't
people
he get
just
killed,
fucking. He gets knocked out, but we don't confirm the body, so it's an open thread that Carl Urban wants to exploit for to annoy the fuck out the guy who acts as Mother's Milk.
I remember him getting shot in the head, but if he can come back, he can come back.
Let's see. So there's the jailbreak at Sage Grove, which was a great scene. The remaining team of the boys basically escape with Lamplighter, who is now maybe not part of their team, but he is now involved with the boys.
Yeah, he's working with them again, because you find out that he was the informant before, when they were working under Mallory.
Yeah.
And then, shit went down.
Yeah, and now the plan is to get him to testify about the effects of Compound V and what happened at Sage Grove to the United States Congress or the people in general, and expose Vought for who they really are. Stormfront reveals her true identity to Homelander, that she was actually the wife of Frederick Vought, a former Nazi scientist who fled Germany and founded Vought International and used Stormfront as the first successful patient for Compound V treatment, in hopes of creating a true superhuman race to dominate the world in line with Nazi ideology. So this is the big reveal. That Stormlander was actually, or Stormlander, that's the ship name for Stormfront and Homelander.
Yeah, it's a ship name.
But Stormfront was actually born in 1919 and is looking good for her age, but also is a Nazi. So, a bit of a 50-50 toss up there. We mentioned it earlier on, that this is the big reveal, and it is what sets the final chapter of The Boys basically in motion. That Stormfront reveals it to Homelander, but later on the members of The Boys find it out and leak it to the press. At which point everybody goes, wait, America's one of America's thought leaders is actually a genuine 1940 or 1939 Nazi. Who has, with pictures of her on the arm of Goering and Goebbels, and she shook hands with the Fuhrer at one point.
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit.
Yeah, that was pretty fucked.
And you do get the sense of them building up her true intentions, that she is a racist, and that she is vehemently opposed to working with black superheroes. I'm not a big fan of the term dog whistling, because it seems a bit overused, but she definitely drops a bunch of very heavily coded language about who the true people are, who the good people are, who the bad people are, and who should be allowed in certain groups. And I think at one point she mentions being part of the collective until they let anyone in, and they give her the actress gives a sly look to A-Train as the only black person in the room. Like, ooh.
Yeah, she's a few fucked up comments about Stan Edgar. Just saying, oh, he's good for an example of his race. I was like,
yeah,
that's
that's later on.
Saying that?
Like the veil slips off gradually throughout the course of the season. And those first couple episodes, you go, it's a weird comment. And by the end of it, you're like, oh, she's a fucking racist. Okay.
She's full-blown racist. She just went full tilt bozo into racism.
Let's see. Starlight is actually captured because she's helping the boys and held in a cell designed to stop her powers, which I thought was interesting. It shows that Vought has contingency plans for superheroes, which it makes sense. I mean, if you build up an empire on the back of Superman, you should probably also have a way to kill Superman just in case.
Yeah, if you're gonna try and support Superman, maybe have a stockpile of kryptonite bullets just hidden somewhere.
I
like
don't know.
Batman does.
Yeah.
Shit, you know, Batman has a stockpile of kryptonite in case Superman ever goes rogue.
He has a number of kryptonite weapons. It's one of the most interesting parts of the comic because I think it's one of the like offshoots of one of the. I think it might be Injustice.
Injustice.
Injustice on Justice. You can shit. But
that dickhead Superman comic.
But the slightly less dickhead Superman comic than normal than this show. But yeah, like the idea that someone out there takes the precaution of thinking, hey, this guy might not always be on our side, and I like that Vought has that forethought as a company. However, it's also I don't know if it's been leaked before this that Vought is growing the superheroes of Compound V, but also it does leak to the press about Stormfront's true heritage. But I think this actually happens afterwards. So I've inserted a note here that doesn't belong, so that's a mistake. But yeah, Starlight gets captured and held in this cell. Huey and Lamplighter go to actually save Starlight.
Yep.
Only thing is that once Homelander or once Lamplighter realizes that he will be never really part of the Seven again because his statue's been removed, he decides to self-immolate, which is kind of a weird move. It was a bit underexplained, I thought. So we have Starlight's escape with Huey is stopped by Black Noir. The two of them get into a fight, during which I'm pretty sure Black Noir chokeslams Starlight through the Seven's table, which very good metaphor. Because at this point, Queen Maeve steps in and knocks him out so bad he is referred to as a vegetable in the next episode by Homelander, which I told you.
And probably the best way to take down, because Black Noir is the superhero that you send to get other superheroes. He's the guy he's Mr. Fix-It. You got a problem, Black Noir will get it sorted. He gets taken out by a piece of chocolate. Because
it's revealed that Black Noir, it's woven in kind of subtly a couple episodes before, to that he actually has an almond allergy.
Peanut. I thought it was peanut allergy. But...
Which, it's almonds because the candy bar they take him out with is Almond Joy.
All right.
Because earlier on, he goes to go to Vaught's intelligence agency, or like the data gathering people, and there's a girl eating an Almond Joy, and he knocks it off the table, and it's I
remember him just picking up a bin and just pointing at it, just to put it in there.
It's like, nope, get it in. We cannot have a further conversation in air quotes, without you getting rid of that. But yeah, it was a weird character moment. You're like, what's is he just very strict about eating at work? Is that his thing?
Yeah. Maybe he's just very health conscious. Like, no chocolate, get that in the bin.
But you get to this and you're like, oh fuck, they wove that in really well.
Yeah.
So yeah, Queen Maeve knocks out or puts him into anaphylactic shock with an almond bar, and then lets the other two escape, which was an interesting moment. But she stays in the Vought Tower, which again, I'll be interested to see how she gets out of that one. In the meantime, with Lamplighter being dead, the boys need a new person to testify in front of Congress. So Butcher goes to see Vogelbaum, who is the scientist that created Homelander, basically, and convinces him to testify by threatening to murder everyone Vogelbaum ever knew. which was the most baller move ever.
Yeah. Does so in front of Vogelbaum's, is it daughter, granddaughter?
It's like a niece or something. He's like, oh, this is my niece. And he's like, I will fucking get her. But at the same time, like, he never actually addresses the niece. He just tells Vogelbaum, I will kill everyone you love. Everyone you ever hugged will fucking die if you don't testify in front of Congress. And then he's like, oh, nice tea, love. Excellent brew. Oh, great strong brew. Much appreciated.
lovely cup of cha.
And then immediately looks back to him like, I'll fucking do it.
It's that smile that Butcher gives you, like, oh shit, this guy's serious.
It's the polite menace, and it's delicious. I love it. It's a great Carl Urban moment. This is why I enjoy him in a bunch of movies. I think his Dread was fantastic. Absolutely underrated, but like stuff like this, I'm like, when you can actually see him just acting and just enjoying and being a bit of cheeky shit, it's delightful.
Fantastic.
So Vogelbaum actually goes ahead with going to meet Congress, or meets the congressional hearing on it. And then as he begins to testify, his head explodes, quickly followed by shockwave and 10 random onlookers in the crowd. And I will say that ending to the episode was amazing, because it leaves you with like a massive question of like, wait, that was a plan, that was the backup plan to the plan. What the fuck do we do now? And the fact that it wasn't just human heads, it was super heads as well. And I think it was a very, like, they show Shockwave dying. I'm like, I didn't even know why Shockwave was in that room, but he was clearly in that room just to die.
Yeah. Is that not after? No, that's well before A-Train gets back into the Seven, so I don't know why he was there.
I don't know, because A-Train is technically, he's not out publicly yet. He is on the way out. He knows it's coming. He knows his heart issues are being exposed by Homelander, who can hear his heartbeat, and he knows that A-Train's in a bit of a shit show, and they're hinting that Shockwave is going to come back in, or will be brought in to replace A-Train at some point. But I don't think
and we'll still keep the name A-Train.
Yeah, I think they're like, it's in that weird thing where like they haven't announced it publicly because there's the PR side of things to be considered as well. I think he's there as a friend of Vought's to hear the testimony, with the obvious implication that, you know, this will affect his career going forward. But he's popped, and we'll get into that later on, because there's part of like the very last scene of the show for season 2 is kind of explains why he gets picked out. But I originally thought it was just to explain why he has been, or originally to explain that whoever is popping these heads, because we have had a previous victim of this, doesn't just target humans, they can also take down a soup.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Homelander and Stormfront take Ryan from Becca, saying that they basically aren't letting him live to his full potential. Becca flees the compound to find Butcher. Maeve actually finds footage from inside the crashed airliner from season 1 and is going to use it to blackmail Homelander, but her girlfriend Elena finds it on her phone. That causes the two to break up and sends Queen Maeve into another bender. Because why not? Yeah. Becca meets Butcher in their underground hideaway and explains what's going on with Ryan. Butcher goes to Edgar, the head of Vought International, and offers to help capture Ryan in exchange for separating Ryan and Becca so he can start a new life with his wife. Because I couldn't remember, I was watching it this morning, I was like, I can't remember why Butcher offers to help Vought, but it's to obviously separate the two of them.
Yeah, it's to try and get Becca back and do something with Ryan, because I think Ryan, Butcher at this point knows that Ryan has powers. So he's like, yeah, I just want, they can take the kid, I just want Becca.
Yeah.
Fuck him. I ain't deal with no soup brat.
Yeah. The boys and Starlight, who's joined them now because she's managed to get out of the compound for Vought, set up a plan to get Homelander away from the cabin that he's using to hide Ryan in, using ultra-high frequency notes that draw Homelander to a pile of speakers out in the woods, which I thought was a very good plan. I'm like, that would work.
Yeah, that was genius.
Yeah.
Only superhero or only someone with superhearing could hear something on that frequency. So,
yeah. Homelander goes to investigate. Butcher and Becca grab Ryan and take them back to the staging area. Butcher's then supposed to hand Ryan over to Vought, but left his phone, which was providing the homing signal for a kind of special forces private security team that would go and meet them once he'd secured Ryan. He left that in the cabin as he realizes Becca won't be happy with Ryan with her. The private security team then goes to the cabin to secure Ryan and is murdered by a very furious Homelander. We talked about how much we enjoy Carl Urban's acting as Butcher, but watching the guy who plays Homelander just lose it for like a couple scenes every episode is just fantastic.
Yeah, again, that twitch in the eye that you see from Homelander, that just becomes a full-on death stare when Homelander's in the cabin. You just think, holy shit, we're going to see him just cut through 7 Special Forces soldiers like they're nothing.
Yeah, there's a moment of like, where's my son? And then it's like, sir, you got to calm down and understand that for the company. And immediately, where is my son? And laser blast. The screaming of where is my son? And then just annihilating the first guy. And then turn to look at everyone else like, you're next.
Yeah. There's a lot of you here. I'd like to get through this quickly. Yeah. Tell me where he is.
Stormfront was actually on her way to meet with Homelander and Ryan. But she sees what's going on and ambushes the team in the staging area and destroys the getaway vehicles and some of the special gear that Frenchie designed to take her down. Becca, Ryan, and Butcher escape into the woods while the boys hold her off. And Kimiko attempts to avenge her brother's death by sticking her boot up Stormfront's Nazi kitty, which is one of the best jokes of the season.
Yeah.
Stormfront's attack basically has them screwed. Like, again, watching this morning, I'm like, wow, nobody really stood a chance. It does kind of fall down to what Kimiko and Starlight to kind of hold the line because they're the only superhero people there. And
I did actually find it quite funny when Huey's trying to shoot Stormfront, how he can't hold the gun properly. Yeah. You've got Frenchie dual wielding pistols. You've got Mother's Milk just blasting away with the shotgun. Then you've got Huey barely holding the 9mm.
Well, it makes sense because Frenchie's former French Foreign Legion. He's ex-military as well. So like they're both military veterans, and then all of a sudden you have like this one kid showing up with a gun, just kind of like he was like a half minute away from just like holding the gun sideways to see if that worked better. But Queen Maeve shows up and starts decking her,
beating the living shit out of her
by going, "Hey, Kraut," which was like interesting World War II joke. Kimiko and Starlight then beat the shit out of Stormfront until she flies away to chase Ryan, only to be immediately stabbed in the eye by Becca. And I will say, we talked about this, there have been tons of jokes at DC's expense. This entire episode is at Marvel's expense because there was a bit of a mixed reaction to the girls' hero scene in Avengers Endgame, where all the female members of the Avengers team up to make one big push and one big charge to end Thanos. And it was I thought it was okay. It got a bad reception from people who are saying that they're trying to libtard the comic books, and I just said
I thought it was okay, but I just thought
it was a bit cheesy.
The time to have them all land and say, she won't be doing it alone. She has us, and doing the kind of the pose, then go off to fight. Like, could you not just have that? Like if you flying through, then just intercepting characters fighting.
Yeah. Like if you had 3 of them land and say, "Don't worry, they've got us," and then you chain together all the female Avengers, and that happens kind of semi-naturally, you'd be fine. No one would have even noticed it. But the fact that they stopped to get all 20 characters that are female from the Avengers to land and do a little pose and then go off to fight, I think that's what pissed people off, because it was a bit too on the nose. This episode just shows women getting it done. And there's a line that comes way back from like episode 2 of the season where Vought want to make a push for female heroes because female empowerment is in right now. So it's that very kind of cynical marketing thing. And it's an obvious dig at this type of move by Marvel and DC to say like, oh, the girls get it done and make it like a kitschy catchphrase, you know? Whereas if you actually want to show empowered women, you show them being just as brutal and effective as the guys. And I think that this is like a very obvious dig at stuff like Marvel and DC when they try to make female empowerment characters by just making nice women who are very powerful rather than just women who actually go in and throw the punches to get the actual job done.
Yeah. None of this posing for the camera shit. Just go in and start beating the hell out of her. Although I did kind of notice that they don't have all 3 of them beating her up at once. They kind of wait for their turn, then get her on the ground and just bully circle her.
I thought it was kind of fun. Like there was good pacing with the punches and the editing.
I'm just saying, I like that aspect because they kind of take their turns, then realise like, fuck it, what are we doing? Let's just beat the shit out of her.
I thought it was a practical aspect to filming it, and that it was more to do with like you can have her basically being battered back and forward between different heroes. So you get like Kimiko punching her to Maeve punching her Starlight, and then just having them bounce off different characters so that it shows she has nowhere to go. She literally can't run. And then when they drop her, they all just start stomping on her and kicking her in the ribs. And I was like, I guess that's just a practical aspect of making it happen, but it was really fucking funny. And then for her to land, and like she flees the superheroes, but then immediately when she lands, she gets stabbed in the eye by Becca. I was like, damn, this bitch can't get a break. She's absolutely wrecked by the end of it. And it was like Becca's knife comes out of nowhere, and it's so good. It's the rage in Stormfront when she's like, motherfucker. And she's like screaming and swearing in front of a kid, where she's previously been very reserved and trying to be very
motherly.
She's not. It's not quite motherly. It's more like the stepmother coming in, or like the father's boyfriend. The father's girlfriend introducing to the son for the first time. But then the rage snaps, and then she's like having a bad day already, and then somebody stabs her in the eye, and she just decides to go all out.
Yeah, at that point she quite literally says, "No, don't close your eyes. I want to see the light go out."
Well, yeah. In response to being stabbed in the eye, she starts choking out Becca up against a tree, and telling her, "No, I want to look at you as you die, because that's what I really enjoy out of all this." We see Butcher trying to beat her off with a crowbar, and it having no effect whatsoever. I mean, she's been shot 50 times that day, and none of it's hurt her. So a crowbar doesn't do much either, until Ryan steps up to the plate. Now, we've hinted that Ryan has the superhero powers. He actually has his father's laser eyes. He threatened to use it on Homelander once for touching Becca, and then all of a sudden he unleashes all hell. And then he unleashes all hell on both Stormfront and, by accident, his mother. So we've
only ever seen him use his powers once before, and that was to shove Homelander. So you kind of think, well, maybe he's not got much about him. Then you see this. Yeah.
And this is him just blasting with full power and no training, which is why Stormfront is left without any limbs. She has like a stump for one arm, and like the other arm that was blocked by her body is kind of there, but missing a few fingers. She's also partially cooked. I thought that like the way she looked, it was maybe a bit of a reference to Star Wars when Anakin gets melted.
It did look like that, yeah.
Especially with half the face being missing.
Yes.
But at the same time, he has also killed his mother, because she has a massive gaping wound in her throat. But she loses her last breath begging Butcher to take care of Ryan because she believes that he's a good kid. Which, I mean, kind of.
I mean, he could be.
He might be, but
psychopath.
This won't age well in his mind. I can guarantee that. So we see. We cut to a scene where Butcher is standing there looking at Ryan, and I'm like, there's a 50-50 chance he's going to use that crowbar on that kid. And Homelander shows up with one of the few shots that actually show superheroes flying in the show. I don't know if you noticed it, but most of the time you can clearly see like an edit. Like we talked about earlier, where Homelander accidentally knocks his son off the roof. Him coming back to the ground, I swear they had the camera under a table. And Homelander was sitting on the table and he just steps down onto the ground. That is how I interpret that shot went down. When you look at it, you go, he was clearly sitting on a table waiting for the shot to start rolling, and then he can step off and look like he flew off the roof himself. But they show him landing, caked in blood, because he's obviously been dealing with that team back in the lodge. And with his best calm but angry dad voice, he tells Ryan to come see him and explain himself. You know, did you do this to Becca? But Ryan actually goes to Butcher instead. Just before Homelander sticks a fist through Butcher's chest, Queen Maeve shows up and explains that she has footage of the airplane incident, and she will unleash it on the world in an attempt to ruin Homelander's public persona. Homelander says, if you do that, I will destroy everything and everyone you love. And she says, fine, that'll be worth it, as long as no one loves you again. In one of the coldest lines in the show.
Yeah. You get the sense that Maeve is just done with this shit. She's like, you know what, I don't give a fuck. I will burn everybody at the ground as long as I get this guy.
Yeah. And that is pretty much the end of season 2, with Ryan going to CIA custody after being given the greatest piece of life advice by Butcher: don't be a cunt. A-Train and Starlight are restored to the Seven, and the boys are given a clean slate by the US government after the work exposing Stormfront as a Nazi and halting the sale of Compound V.
And they're given their own task force. In response to this, the FBI is setting up an anti-suit task force.
I don't think...
You guys are in it if you want it.
I think they offer that to Butcher, but I don't know if he accepts. It's one of those things of like, he's going to take a week off and then he'll get back to you about it.
I think they probably will, because in the comics, I'll start talking about the differences properly in the comics, but in the comics, they already are in this task force.
Right.
There's the shit with Homelander there, but they already work for the government, and as a kind of independent contractor type thing, so they can deny anything.
Yeah.
But Butcher and Frenchie and Mother's Milk are already in the boys,
right,
from the beginning. So I think season 3,
they will actually bring them into the canon. Okay.
With government backing.
So the one thing I wanted to talk about I consider that to be the episode, both for season 1 and season 2. They have a good way of ending threads from season 1 and season 2, but then setting up season 3, because the show is now being confirmed for third season. I think it was actually confirmed before it started broadcasting, which is a damn good sign.
Before season 2 episode 1 dropped, season 3 was greenlit.
Yeah, which I gotta say, yeah, I'd agree. Not exactly taking a risk for that one. This is a great fucking show.
Unfortunately, the way Amazon Prime shows go, I think it'll probably get to season 4, then that'll be it. They'll probably go the same way as Preacher. They'll only get 4 seasons, which it's a shame, but at the same time, you don't want it to drag out. You don't want it to be Supernatural, where it's got 17 seasons, and there's maybe 7 good ones.
So one of the things we needed to wrap up about season 2 was actually the head-popping assassin, and we get the reveal of who that actually is. And I do kind of classify it as both an end to season 2's mystery, but the start of season 3's mystery.
Because we went back and forth speaking about this. I was convinced that it was Stormfront.
My money...
There you go. Distorting the electrical fields in people's brains to make their heads explode or something.
My money was on the guy who's the head of the church, the collective, Adana, and I was convinced of that because of a line of dialogue. I think he says that he's had a phone call with someone at VOT, and then don't worry, it'll be taken care of. And then the next scene is the Senate hearing with all the head popping, during which obviously one of the superheroes dies because he's trying to get A-Train back on. So I think he deliberately had Shockwave killed. Still technically could have happened because it revealed that the head popper is actually Congresswoman Newman, who was at the hearing. She was the head of the committee that was hosting the VOT hearing. So he's obviously had a phone call with her because they're close, because season 2 ends with them having a phone call. Adana explains that A-Train will be going back into the 7, but the Deep will not be, as Edgar put it, or as Mr. Edgar put it. Bringing back 1 stray is a sign of strength, bringing back 2 is a sign of weakness and desperation. So I think it gets revealed that Newman is the actual head-popping assassin. Yeah.
Which I didn't really see coming. I was convinced it was going to be someone that we already seen, and you've seen her at other points just being... She works for the CIA or something? She works for Mallory or with Mallory?
She's part of the Congress for the United States, so she's a congresswoman, but she obviously will have ties to intelligence agencies through Congress, but you never expect someone like that to be an in-the-field agent. I expect a congressperson's time is too busy to include some assassinations, but this will make season 3 interesting because Huey just signed up to join her superhero monitoring agency as part of Congress, because she's part of now like kind of superhero oversight, and Huey just joined her team.
Which is just a good move on the part of Edgar, getting someone who's on this task force on his payroll.
Mm-hmm. And then the final scene I want to talk about was Homelander holding the press conference with Edgar, in which they explain that Stormfront's past, and how they were totally blindsided by all of it and couldn't possibly have known, despite the fact that everyone has known. And they make a bit of a statement saying they're going to hold off on releasing Compound V and focus on reforming the 7 to be better than before. Homelander starts to take the stage and make an inspiring speech that we actually don't really get to hear It's all about like the teamwork and the work that the seven have done together, and how they're going to be great and glorious and lead America forward by example. And it just starts to fade out and be replaced with this high pitched tone as the camera shifts into Homelander's eyes, gradually just tightening up the tension. And you can see that there is nothing there. Homelander has become a fucking shark. He was already a psychopath before. He is now going to murder everyone in season 3.
Yeah, the safety pin has been taken off. He has no fucks left to give. I think Homelander is going to be a completely different beast in season 3.
Yeah.
I think we never spoke about it, but there's a point where Homelander is giving a press conference and the crowd's turning against him, and he has a kind of blackout moment where he just lasers the entire audience, cutting them down. There's like 80, there's 100, a couple hundred people in this audience, and he just lasers all of them. Yeah. I think that might actually happen in season 3.
Yeah, and that was, I actually mentioned it earlier on when I said that there was an episode trailer that was cut, and it gave me the biggest cock tease I've ever of all time, and blueballed me, and it was actually the trailer for that episode where he gives the press conference, and it's after he murders the guy in Africa, and he goes out there to say, look guys, it's not that big of a deal, I put in America first, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but really it doesn't matter. I was out there doing service for military men and women fighting overseas, and a military veteran in the crowd goes, you don't fucking speak for us. At that point, Homelander does have the little blackout and lasers the crowd, and it's awesome, but they put that part in the trailer without showing anything else, so I thought he actually done that. I was really looking forward to it. I was like, oh my god, how the fuck are they going to pull that one off? Because I wanted to see the VOT system try and spin the PR for like the murder of like 50 to 60 people into something positive for Homelander.
Yeah, it would have been quite cool to see VOT finagle their way out of that situation.
You see, those were actually Russian protesters.
They were all super terrorists. What are you talking about?
You're drunk. You're welcome, America. But that's the end of the plot point for season 2. I keep saying season 3. Yeah. God damn it.
All we know about season 3 is that it'll probably involve what did you say the woman's name is that's popping people's heads?
And Congresswoman Newman.
Yeah, Congresswoman Newman. She's probably going to play a big part in it. We do know that Soldier Boy, the original superhero, played by Jensen Ackles, is going to be in there, and apparently he's going to be the prototype Homelander. But they're probably going to ape Captain America a bit more and not have him be in flashbacks. That they need some PR, so they're going to bring back the original superhero to try and sort this shit out.
Yeah, and actually,
there's been a couple of rumors that I've heard, but either way, it'll be cool.
The artwork they showed of Soldier Boy was very reminiscent of Captain America. I think he actually has a shield that is designed to look like kind of like the Judge Dredd badge, where it's like the eagle on the wings. That's his shield. But also, I think I saw piss running down his leg.
Yeah, I was going to say the pictures that I've seen, it's him pissing himself.
I'm like, interesting choice there. If you're going to have a flaw for a superhero, might as well make him piss himself. And also, I think I would actually love to see Jensen Ackles act like he's pissing himself while being a superhero at the same time. I think he could pull it off like no one else can. The man is Casper Van Dien, but with more acting experience.
Yeah, I will say he'll be able to pull it off, especially when he's working with Eric Kripke, who he's worked for so many years.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they get the other guy in there, Jared.
Jared Padalecki, yeah.
Be fun to see if he gets in there as some character.
I think they should at least worm it in as a joke, because they actually have, who's his name? I think it's Bob Siegel. He shows up, he's Bobby.
He's Congressman, yeah. He's in there somewhere.
Yeah, I do love, there's one of his lines where he's part of the task force, or he's part of like trying to get VOT to just come to the table and negotiate with the FBI for the secrets around Compound V. And he's talking to people in there, and they're saying, we'll have your job. You'll be fired as a congressperson. He said, oh no, I'll have to give up this shit job and go get a cushy daytime slot with Fox. What are you going to do about it? Fuck it. Like, you're, oh yeah, we've got nudes of you. He goes, go ahead, leak it. I actually quite like the way my ass looks. Like, damn, son.
Doesn't give a shit.
But it's a perfect character. And I think if they do want to make a joke out of getting all the Supernatural cast in there, I would be all for it. I think there's like plenty like spare superheroes and like bit parts that you could have people show up in. And I do hope that they bring Jensen Ackles in for more than just a bit part. I hope he gets more than one season.
I think he'll be in there for a wee while. It just depends how well his character's liked by people, because that's always the calling card of people coming back into the show. Is if the fans like them, they'll bring them back.
Yeah, and I get the feeling again with the way this show handles every character, there's going to be the usual, like the front face, and then the reality. And I can't wait to see what Captain America's other side is.
Yeah.
So, anything else to miss for season 2?
No, pretty thorough analysis there. Like I said, it's probably good that they deviated from the comics slightly, because they don't want Homelander to have to fight his weird Nazi dad.
Yeah.
I don't think even Amazon have the balls to pull that one off.
Actually, we're talking about gender swapped characters. Congresswoman Newman was originally Congressman Newman, and I think they actually deliberately swapped her for somebody who looks a bit more like somebody like AOC, one of the American congresswomen, or what's her name? She's the vice president right now, Kamala Harris. Somebody who does look like that kind of modern democratic woman, just to like drive home, just to kind of show the how the politics has changed in the last couple of years. And I think
know that's why they gender swapped Stormfront, because they thought, what would Homelander's worst nightmare be? A strong woman who is going to shut him down and make him look bad.
Yeah, a woman who might step on his balls. I think. Yeah. Actually, I think we should point out that they have, like, Homelander has weird sex in this show a lot. There's a lot of breastfeeding in season 1 with his manager, and then we have season 2's weird kind of BDSM angle. Now Stormfront does look like she is probably going to slap you with her dildo all the way through the show. However, I will say they're slightly kind of superpowered, not violent sex scenes. It's not a violent sex scene, but like the one where they're like throwing each other into walls, but like, because it's supposed to be like a passionate thing, but then because they're superheroes, they actually like put dents in the walls and like throw each other through buildings. And then fucking in midair is amazingly funny. I don't know what it was. There was just something about the angle, I think. You're like, I guess that's how you fuck someone in midair. I don't entirely know. I need to maybe get a trampoline and figure that one out.
Logistically, no human being will ever have to figure out that problem. So,
but yeah, I like the fact that they show the all-American good guy just devolving into like a real sexual deviant, to the point where he's jerking off on top of a skyscraper as the credits roll on season 3. On season 2,
shouting,
damn it!
I can do whatever I want.
It was
I can
so
do whatever
fun.
the fuck I want.
And I mean, I know you don't like Doppelganger, but there was at one point the implication.
Fuck that guy.
At one point, Homelander has been using Doppelganger to become Madeline, so he can have sex with her, even though he killed her at the end of season 1. So he spends a couple of nights with her in season 2, and then he kind of loses interest, and Doppelganger's answer is to transform himself into Homelander while still wearing the lingerie and the earrings, which I found hilarious. And then there's that kind of will they, won't they moment of, will the show actually have Homelander sucking himself off? And it was a weird scene, but I'm like, might do it. I don't know. They might. I mean, this is post Game of Thrones world. Maybe they can get away with it. Maybe they can't. But I found that scene really funny. I don't know about you.
I find it quite weird. I spent most of it going, oh, don't, please. I don't want to see that.
It's the watching
I don't want to see him turn into the old guy again midway through the act.
It's that watching through like the hands over the face, and you just watch through the fingers going, no, please don't, please. But
weird.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, season 1 and 2, probably one of the best TV shows I've watched in a long while. Thank you very much for the recommendation. I do blame this episode on you, but
without a doubt, I take the blame 100% because it is a good TV show. It scratches quite a lot of itches for a lot of people, and if you're getting a bit burnt out on superhero movies like I was getting quite tired with the superhero formula. This kind of cured it a little bit, because occasionally you kind of want to see, because Marvel helped a little bit as well, because Thanos winning was just kind of, oh shit, maybe the good guys don't always win.
Yeah.
But then to see that the good guys are also fucking sociopaths and do have weird dark sides to them, you can realise that maybe the Marvel side, it needs to be this bright and shiny, but there's other more realistic takes on it out there.
Yeah. So that's a hearty recommendation from both of us. And I think that's where we'll just leave the discussion of The Boys, because there's going to be a lot more. I'd recommend maybe looking into the alternative content. I'd love to see some behind the scenes stuff for this, and I'm sure Amazon will put it out somewhere. You can buy Blu-rays of The Boys. I was fucking that one up so bad. But you can buy a Blu-ray of The Boys season 1. So I'm assuming there is special content out there.
Yeah, there's tons of bloopers and stuff that you can see on YouTube. There's plenty of shit out there that you can get. So yeah, without a doubt, watch it. That'll be great.
Yeah. And
buy the Blu-rays, buy the comics. The comics are way more fucked up than the movies, of the TV show, because in the TV show, obviously, Butcher hates superheroes. In the comics, they just straight out give Butcher Compound V. He takes him, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Huey all just take it, because the only way to kill superheroes is to become one.
I think that might be a season 3 plot point.
Could be.
I think I might have to try and work it in there somewhere, because it seems like that'd be a great, interesting way to level the playing field for the final showdown.
I can see Huey taking Compound V, but I can't see anybody else.
I don't know. We've taken everything from these characters. I think once they get down to the bottom of the barrel, they might find the need to inject themselves.
Yeah. But I think without going on for another 4 hours about key individual scenes, I think we should just punctuate this whole episode by saying, fantastic show. If you've got Amazon Prime, it's well worth a watch. If not, you can pick up subscriptions, free subscriptions. It's well worth a watch. Would 100% recommend it.
Yeah,
it'll tide you over. If you watch it now, all the content's out. If you watch it over a couple of weeks, it'll tide you over until The Mandalorian season 2 comes out. So, another good reason to watch it.
Yeah. So I think with that, we'll wrap it up. If you did watch The Boys and want to get back to us, you can tweet us at Gibberpish or email us at gibberpishpodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet at me at AaronWordMad, and Dom Anderson has his handle, which he will recite for you now because I can never remember it.
Once I figure out what it is, because I don't use Twitter all that much anymore. Dom_Anderson25.
And yeah, that'll be that. In the meantime, I've been Colin Graham.
I've been Dom Anderson.
And we've been talking Gibberpish about The Boys.